Hey everybody, David Carr back with another episode of How I Edit, and it's been a couple weeks. I've been pretty busy doing a lot of other things, and so haven't had a chance to really make a good video. This one will be pretty brief. It's a fairly simple photo, but one that I really like. I shot this in Seattle back in November of 2019, and so enjoy. Okay, so this is a shot of the Seattle Skyline. I was hanging out with my good friend Toby and his girlfriend Chris, and we were out just on the town, and they drove me to this cool spot. You know, it's kind of an iconic spot for taking one of these night shots of the city, and I was really thrilled to get a shot like this because I have not done a whole lot of these types of photos, you know, where you put up a tripod and you open your shutter for a long time, just, you know, for several seconds at least, to get the trails of the taillights and all that. And so I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Now this is raw, this is right out of the camera, so you know it's going to need a little love, but that's the whole reason we're here, right? Okay, so first thing I'll do, I'll go to my develop module. Let's see. First of all, I noticed that the image is dark. It's just, you know, it was dark out, of course, so the image is going to be dark, but I just want to see what happens if we up the exposure a little bit. And actually, I'm going to go pretty extreme because I just want to see what the sky is doing. Aside from some spots on my sensor, which there are quite a few, I think I've cleaned it since then, hopefully so. But aside from that, I just wanted to see if there was anything in the sky that we wanted to try to pull out, and there's really not. There are a couple stars, but I don't think they even are consequential at this point to the photo. So we'll bring the exposure back down, but not all the way, because now we've got kind of some nice glow from the lights here. And of course, when I do this, you know, my highlights are way too much. So I'm going to bring those back. And I don't want it to look like an HDR shot. It's not really my style. And I think if we start doing this and bringing shadows up, it'll start looking more like an HDR shot. It's not bad. I just kind of want it to look just a tad more natural and kind of more like what I would have seen when I was there. So it's always a little bit of a gamble between bringing your highlights all the way down, bringing shadows up. You know, just bringing the exposure up at all was gonna counteract the highlights, which is good. It's just this whole panel here is all about balance. You just really want to look at your photo and ask yourself, does it look balanced? Does it look is anything standing out to be too bright, or are there shadows that are just too deep that there's no detail? And in a nighttime shot, granted, there are going to be some shadows that are so deep that you don't really see much detail at all. Now, one thing I am noticing is, you know, streetlights oftentimes will put out this kind of orangey, yellowish glow. And while that might be what we really saw, I don't really love it. I love how over here we've got kind of some very whites and very clean colors, and over here it just kind of gets this kind of ugly yellow. So what I'd like to do is go down to my HSL panel here. I'm going to just pull yellow all the way back and see what happens. And it didn't do much, but you know, it definitely got rid of some of it. But let's pull back orange. See, orange is where you start to lose some of that disgusting color. But as I pull orange down, the city kind of becomes a little, well, you know, the buildings don't change much, but I don't mind seeing a little bit of orange over here. But I just felt like over here it was maybe a little too much. So it's going to be a balance between yellow and orange. I'm just going to play around with those and see what they do. And actually, it might even be a matter of the hue of orange. I might want to change that a little bit. And the hue of yellow. You just have to play around with it until you feel like it's showing the colors that you want to show, and at the right amount of saturation and all of that. So we can change the hue of red. Actually, I don't mind going a little more in the direction of red. You'll see over here these taillights. When we're just kind of at nominal at 0, they're fine, but I don't know. I kind of like exaggerating them just a touch. Not like this, because that's very, you know, kind of pinkish purple, but we're going to go just a little bit there, and then yellow. I'm just going to zero out the yellow hue again. I don't think that was really what I wanted to do. I'm going to actually zero out all of that. I just want to see. I still don't love the yellow right here, but it may just be something I have to live with. We can pull up our yellow luminance and see if that does much for us. This is totally an area where you just experiment. And I urge you to be careful. You don't want to go altering colors to the point where things just look ridiculous. But you experiment with it till there's a good balance to everything. And I feel like other than the yellow on that bridge, again, I know that's what was there, but I kind of don't mind just pulling that back a little bit like that. That it's really more of the orange, the factor of orange that I think is affecting that. And I'm going to hit the / key just to see how far we've come. Okay. Definitely looking better. It might be a little too bright now, and in fact, it might be a little too hazy. I'm going to bring the exposure down. I'm going to bring the dehaze up. And the dehaze is doing a pretty cool thing. And I've got it cranked doing that, so let me bring up my texture. Now with buildings and when you've got all these different little details, sometimes texture can add a nice touch to the photo. I'm going to go really far with it and just show you it gets a little too crunchy. But maybe just a hair of texture helps. I also feel like the horizon, even though we can't see it, I kind of feel like the whole image is tilted downward a little bit. I'm going to click the R key, bringing up the crop tool, and I'm going to twist the photo a little bit like this. I think that's better. And I'm actually going to just go ahead and crop while I'm at it. I've got my padlock turned off so that I can come down because we have all this empty sky we don't need. And this shot really could stand to be more of like a panoramic. We could kind of go there and then actually I can come up because we have a lot of just kind of dark space down here and just maybe not necessary. In fact, what's cool about this, and I'll show you in just a second, this is a great leading line. And I'm going to bring it right into that corner so that you come straight out of that corner into the frame. So let's click R, get out of the crop tool. And see, I like that. I like that it just comes right out of that corner and into there. We don't have too much sky. It's pretty good. I'm going to click L 2 times, get into my loop view or lights out view. I like that. That looks pretty good to me. And now I think it needs a little more pizzazz. I'm going to go sharpen the whole photo. Let's see. I'm going to bring up sharpness to probably, I'm going to go to like 100 because I shot this at ISO 100. So it's going to be a very clean shot. I mean, it was, it was a 10-second exposure at f14, ISO 100, 24 millimeters, and this was shot with the beautiful Nikon 24-70S, the new Z mount 24-70, and it is just a tack sharp lens. But that looks pretty good. I'm kind of just examining the photo. I want to make sure that my sharpness is not hurting the photo because there's a point where, it can do too much and we don't want to hurt the photo. So see, 0 sharpness, bringing the sharpness up, you can see what it does. If you go all the way, it gets kind of gritty and grainy and just not very good. But there's kind of a happy medium place, which is probably right around 100. I want to see if adding some noise reduction is beneficial, even though there really isn't a whole lot of noise to speak of. Just sometimes putting a little bit on there can clean the photo up a little bit. And sometimes you have to back all the way up to see if that's really doing much for you. And granted, I'm looking at this on my big 27-inch monitor. And if you're watching this on your phone or an iPad or something like that, you may not be seeing a lot of the little things I'm seeing, but I am seeing them, and I don't want, if I were to print this out large, on metal or something, I wouldn't want those things to be seen, those little minute blemishes and things like that. So I'm going to pull the blacks down a little. I wanted to give the contrast just a little more drama, I could just bump my contrast up, but for some reason I just tend to go more for turning the blacks down. I think because when you pull the blacks down, it doesn't, with contrast, it's kind of like brightening the brights and darkening the darks. Pulling the blacks down, it's doing exactly what it sounds like. It's literally just taking anything that's black or dark and it's kind of like just darkening it. And so I like being able to have control of that. Exposure up. Maybe go back up even more, but then bring the blacks down some more. Again, it's all about balance. That looks pretty good to me. Click L 2 times. I wanted to also crop, well, I'm going to see if I can just crop a little bit further from the right, but still somehow keep the leading line coming out of that corner. So maybe I'll just even come up like this and see how that looks. Click L 2 times. Yeah, I actually like that too. I feel like I don't know that I necessarily needed more information here, although I am missing this curve. Let's just go back and see if we like, well, I have to come in a little bit here. Let's go back and see if we like that. It's not a big deal. There is a a light post here and this little sign. I feel like this area gets a little bit cluttered, and there's not a lot of information over here that I need. I really love seeing the CenturyLink field here, and obviously off to the left here is good, but I feel like it could be a little further to the left. So I'm just gonna crop out that light post and come back up like this. And I think I like that a lot. I think that's pretty great. One thing I am noticing, this is either a star or an airplane or something, but because there's only one, it feels like it could be a spot on the frame or just a glitch or a dead pixel. So I think I would recommend taking something like that out, because if I had a starry night with tons of stars, that would be different. But when there's just one by itself, whatever that was, it's almost like unnecessary at that point. All right, just looking at it, kind of giving it a good look over. I want to see, do I want to bring my shadows back up a little bit? I want to see what happens if they come way up. Obviously the sky when I do that, you start to see actually more, looks like stars, but it's just not enough of a starry night to really capitalize on that. And there are my beautiful dust spots, which actually I'm going to go ahead and get rid of now. I'm going to click the Q key and bring up my cloning tool and healing brush tool. I'll just stay in heal. And there's two ways you can do this. You can just go through and click them like this, or you can hold down your A key while you're in this tool, and it'll bring up sort of a reverse, like a negative of that. And you can see all these little spots. Now, when I let go of the A key, they go away, and you'll see that those are actually those stars. So when I bring my brightness back down, we're not going to see that, but I wanted to go ahead and eliminate some of what looked like dust spots. Okay, so we're out of that negative version there, and we're just gonna click the Q key, get out of that tool, and I'm gonna go back and of course bring the shadows back down. I just wanted to see if there was anything worth looking at. There's something over here I didn't notice at first. Look at that. It's probably just some sort of a lens flare, but I might as well take it out. So I'll click the Q key again, just kind of paint over that, and that gets rid of it nicely. And okay, now we're gonna bring those shadows back down. Again, that stuff might not have mattered because the shadows are coming back down, but sometimes depending on where you have it printed, how you have it printed, ironically, you'll think that it doesn't matter, and then you'll get your print back and realize that you're seeing things that you didn't see when you were editing, and that's a really unfortunate thing to have happen, because printing can get expensive, and it can be something. It's something you don't want to have to do over and over again. I'm going to pull the contrast down. I'm just trying to balance this photo out, folks. So just bear with me. I'm going to go back to my HSL sliders. I'm going to bring blue down, see what it does to the night sky. No, it starts looking like a cloudy, rainy sky. It's okay to have some blue in the photo. We could bring down the luminance of blue, and you see what that's doing up here. These are pretty bright spots, but they're not really bothering me being bright. And then I'm gonna lastly, I'm gonna turn up my vibrance, because I want these colors to really pop. And I think that's actually pretty nice. I mean, I'm going pretty full on with the vibrance. I'm gonna actually go all the way and see how bright it gets. Okay, when you do that, the yellows really get bad. So you got to be careful. It's all about just kind of finding the right the right amount. Saturation, I've said this before, I don't typically turn saturation up, but I always like to just see what happens if there's just like a tinge more of saturation. And, you know, everybody's got different taste. I've got some photographer friends who don't like a lot of saturation. I like vivid color. So for me, going up +5 on that and bringing that vibrance way up, I mean, to me, that actually, you know, when you look at a city skyline like this at night, there is a lot of color. And because there's a lot of dark space around it, that color really does pop way more so than it does in the day. So, you want to show that in your photo. So I'm going to click the L key 2 times. I like this a lot. I think that's kind of my photo. Now, there are other things I could do to the photo. I'm noticing right here, you know, there's some tents under here. We could Photoshop those out. Probably could find some little places to nitpick to Photoshop out, but I'm not too concerned about that. I feel like this kind of shows what I wanted to show in my photo. And let me click my / key and see how far we've come. From there to there, from there to there. So that'll about do it. This was somewhat of a shorter edit. Good for you. You can go get a cup of coffee now or do whatever you're going to do. But I just wanted to show you kind of a more simple edit, one where I didn't have to go do a lot of heavy lifting. I didn't have to go clone a bunch of stuff, you know, and add layers and all that. This was just sort of a, how do we take an image that's pretty good and finish it off to make it great? And I think it turned out pretty nice. So thanks a lot. I'll be back with more editing videos very soon.